So let me just check my wrestling rage ticker here. Right? Everyone's gone crazy again. Also, hello my friends, welcome to Ups and Downs for AEW Dynasty, whatever the flub you want to call it. It is I, Simon Miller, the bald idiot, who is going to go through the pay-per-view, and I'm going to tell you what I liked and what I didn't like. But unlike other insane people that are out there, if you dug it, that's great. And if you hated something, that is great too. We can do all the dance of joy and remember that wrestling is meant to be there to entertain us and make us feel good. Let's take the finger of power, give the good bits an up, the bad bits are down. Now, admittedly, there were some matches on this card that probably could have just been saved for the main event of a Dynamite or a Collision, but given that a lot of them were based on the Owen Hart Cup tournament, well, now that Owen Hart Cup tournament just feels even more important. In terms of our first match, Kevin Knight went out there, and good grief, did he hit a home run. Now, when he got signed for AEW, I don't think I made a big enough deal about that, so I do apologize. But I worked a show back in November with Kevin Knight. I believe we were in New York City, and honestly, up close, it's just so obvious that guy has got the goods. And on this evening, he was taking on William Ospreay, so of course it was the most entertaining thing you've ever seen in your life. It's also even more ridiculous because Kevin wasn't even meant to be in this match, and he was a replacement for Jay White. So it's just one of those opportune moments, and he absolutely killed it. I mean, almost instantly, Ospreay booted him out of the ring, and this fall that Kevin Knight took. I was like, yep, that's most definitely the All Elite Wrestling way. It looked like he was dead. Ospreay then followed up with the crossbody, the Pip Pip Cheerio, and some chops. That sounds like a McDonald's order. Kevin then chopped William back when we got the corkscrew kick. At this point, because I'm a little bit strange, I looked at Ospreay's chest. I was like, yeah, that's a handprint on it. It's absolutely redonkulous. Knight then hit what could very well become the best drop kick in the business when Will came back with the standing Spanish fly. So yeah, they were ticking all the boxes, but there ain't no match like a Will Ospreay match, and Knight was doing exactly what he needed to do. They were then reversing Stars clashes onto the damn ring apron, and we were getting Poison Ranas and Hurricane Ranas and everything else you could imagine, when Kevin had revealed his game plan, which was essentially, Will, you can try and hit me with that OzCutter, but I'm just gonna get out of the way. And he did. Sadly though, that meant eventually he did forget about the Stars Clash, which he was also trying to reverse. He got nailed with that. The OzCutter then did make him go all wibbly wobbly when Will Ospreay hit the Hidden Blade. He got the 1-2-3, and he is now going through to the second round. But sometimes you can make someone even though they have lost, and that is 2 for 2 for Kevin Knight now. So if we can give him some promo time and he can get that over as well, he is absolutely going to fly. This was totally brilliant. I had a wonderful time. Up. When? I don't know. Because I was super pleased a few weeks ago when we decided that Big Bill and Brian Keith should enter the tag team division, because they are two talented dudes, and if you are going to have them in the learning tree, well, they should start climbing up that ladder. They also in the Hurt Syndicate are one of the best tag teams in the world right now, and they are the champions. So I felt like we could do something here, but instead it just kind of feels like the AEW tag team scene in general, well, it's just a little bit directionless, at least for me. We also started by Keith running away from Bobby Lashley, and listen, I understand that you do have to do this, but he is a bounty hunter, so I'd have preferred it if he got a few licks in. But yeah, he got the tag to Big Bill, and because he is the biggest of Bills, he went and wrecked everybody, so at least we did that. MVP then gave his boys words of encouragement, and this is when Bill did tag Keith back in, and look, this time, Brian did try his luck. But Bobby Lashley eventually murdered him, write a letter to his family. Sharon did the same, and it was only a well-timed dodge that did get Big Bill back in. And once again, he was slamming fools, or eventually they all fell to the outside. When MJF appeared in the crowd, he was like, oh, look, I've got my diamond ring on, and he punched Big Bill right in the face. Now, listen, the rest of the Hurt Syndicate, maybe not MVP, were like, well, we don't like this. But what do we got to do? We have to go and win the match. That's exactly what we did as well, because Shelton Benjamin hit the German suplex on Brian Keith, where Bob once again just smashed him with a spear. 1, 2, 3. So look, the story is good. We kind of did protect the learning tree here, which is good. And I am super intrigued to see what MJF does do, so I am going to give it an up. But yeah, I still don't think the tag team titles are back to where they once were, although I am happy it's on the Hurt Syndicate. But there was just something in the air, and it wasn't Tonight. Whatever that song was, I don't know what I'm talking about. Phil Collins sang it. Maybe we've gone way off track here. The point is that part is going to get it down. We're just missing the secret sauce. Maybe it's barbecue. Mercedes Moné versus Julia Hart was next, which is 2 from the Owen Hart Cup. You can basically go back to what I just said about this. But in terms of a match, thought it was pretty darn good. Now, it's only fair to mention that during the last few minutes, the fans were totally into this, and my gosh, they got behind Julia. They really wanted her to win. And when you do break a wrestling match right down, well, that means you did your job. So ignore the negative Nancy's that are crapping all over this, because it just means they don't understand wrestling. The whole idea is you take the audience on a journey, and that's why they call it popping for the finish, because you get the finish, and because you did do exactly what you were meant to do, everyone goes, ah! And listen, when we got to the final few seconds, once again, I think people would have killed their firstborn for Julia Hart to win. That's way too extreme. I shouldn't have said that, let's move on. At the same time though, sure, in the early going, there were a few wibbly wobbly moments, but who actually cares when it comes to pro wrestling? Like, if you're someone who is like, I want my wrestling to feel more legitimate, then you should want errors and you should want faux pas, because that's what real human beings do, and they are real human beings. What? Now, sure, it did suffer in the sense that there was no jeopardy here whatsoever, because Mercedes Moné was not going to lose, but in many ways they did use that to their advantage, because that's why everybody got so into Julia. You also hear a really good jawbreaker into the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment surprise roll-up for a good near fall. And even when Mercedes was going through the three amigos, after number 2, Hart went no, and she got out of it. She did go for the moonsault, but Moné was able to get her feet up on that one. And as soon as she was back on top, she did the House of Black pose. That did make me laugh, but then she remembered it is 2025, because Hart went and got a dive. We even got a Tajiri shout out, because flipping Julia did do the tarantula, but this is when she learned a valuable lesson. She was way too obsessed with that moonsault, and once again, Mercedes Moné stopped it. By this point though, both had charged their meters, so Julia Hart was going for Heartless, but that just inspired Mercedes, because she was able to apply the statement maker, and even though she was trying to pull Julia Hart's face off, she was able to get to the ropes, and she reversed it into the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment surprise roll-up. But then Moné was like, well, I could do that too. So she hit the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, and that was it. 1, 2, 3. So I guess that was kind of good, because it kind of told you, oh, Mercedes panicked there, and she was happy to get a win. So it was decent, it was solid, it did do the job. And yes, we're probably never going to talk about it again, but I don't mind the fact it was on pay-per-view. It did make it sort of feel lesser than maybe other AEW pay-per-views, but you can't win them all, man. It's still getting it up. When we got a story match and everybody involved still kick each other's ass. Now, it was for the Trios Championships. This is another thing that AEW needs to focus on, because those trio titles kind of feel like my hair. Every now and then they utterly vanish. But it was also rated FTR versus the Death Riders, so of course it ruled. Pac and Dax kicked things off, and as soon as Dax realized, oh my gosh, I'm going to be put in the brutalizer, he tagged in Adam Copeland, and he decided he was going to go at it with Cash Wheeler. Not Cash Wheeler, Wheeler Yuta. This actually brings me to a point I did want to bring up later, but we'll do it now. How the flub did we get to 2025 and 2 people in the same match have the name Wheeler? Cash Wheeler, Wheeler Yuta. I mean, that makes me feel like I've fallen into the Phantom Zone. Cope actually got out of this too by pulling on Wheeler's beard, which is very interesting, when he tagged in Wheeler. And I said that out loud, and I was like, I think I have entered a paradox. Tony Castagnoli and Pac then started to get involved too, as they were casting distraction, which the Death Riders always do, and that allowed them to take over for a while. But you're not going to believe this. Eventually, we got a hot tag, and it was to the Cope. I really do think, all things considered, he's still amazing as well. You see some odd criticism online, and by this point, too, FTR were totally ramped up, so they hit the Powerplex. We started to get the 1-2-oohs. Pac was then able to start the comeback for the Death Riders as he locked in the Brutalizer, and even though his friends tried to stop the opponents from breaking it up, eventually they broke through anyway, and they broke it up. If I was Pac, I'd be so pissed off. I'd be like, this was the plan we had in the back, and you weren't able to do squib. Cope then got a spear on Claudio's. We also got a shatter machine, so pins were broken up all over the place, which when Adam was like, oh my gosh, that spear has helped me so many times, he went to do it to Wheeler Yuta, who got out the way. And of course, Copeland almost speared Dax. Now he didn't, but Wheels was like, well, I don't care, and he pushed these two into each other. I think Dax is going to be very happy about that, because Yuta then hit the running knee. 1, 2, 3. And it rhymes, so it must be true. The Death Riders got out there pretty quickly, so you could just smell that angle was coming. And yep, Adam Copeland and Cash Wheeler did help Dax up to his feet. And Dax just went, I don't like you, Adam. And he took him out with a power driver. Now this is when we got one of the best moments of the night, because I was cracking up. Because Dax was like, man, Cash Wheeler, you need to help me. Cash was like, I will not help you, Dax. How dare you do this? Especially because you were about to hit our friend with a concerto. So when Adam did get back up to his feet, from nowhere, FTR did hit the Shatter Machine. Cash has joined his brothers in arms, which meant the plan backstage must have been, dude, we can totally troll everyone, because I'll go heel, and you pretend you're gonna stay face, but then you go heel anyway. I love wrestling. It then got totally nuts because they did hit the concerto, and it was Cash Wheeler doing this. But when the local medical facility team came, and they wanted to put Adam Copeland on a local medical facility board, this is when FTR started to wear the medical apparatus, and they were laughing at the fact that old friend could be dead. So they really are just great bad guys, because they came across like such assholes here in the intended way, when poor old Copeland did get dragged off to the hospital. I said it. Now you have to imagine that somehow Christian Cage is going to go babyface and team up with his old friend. And how you get away with that with Christian, I don't know, because he has said some terrible things. But deep down, if it is FTR versus those two at All In, we're all going to be so happy anyway, we'll probably just allow it. So this was great, the match was great, and the turn was great, even though you did see it coming. But execution is everything, my pals. It is getting it up. It's one of the best things we did all evening. When I am just going to give it down to Toni Storm versus Megan Bayne for the AEW Women's Championship, the match was really good, as we will talk about, but in terms of me actually believing that Megan was going to win, well, I just think we could have taken more time with it. Because it really does tie into my bugbear with the entire program, which is if we had just built Megan Bayne up as this monster, where she wins for a few months, maybe we would have sat down here and gone, wow, Tony's held that belt for a while, and she's taken on a beast. But instead, Megan Bayne just lost. I do not understand why we needed to do this match now. In terms of the night, though, it was really good, because Toni Storm had this amazing entrance, and we did sell Megan Bayne like she was Godzilla, and oh my gosh, how is Toni Storm ever going to stop her? Well, the answer is she basically didn't. I mean, Luther even tried to help Storm at one point, but Megan did a dive and took out everybody. And she also had Penelope Ford in her corner. So my hand went up. I was like, AEW, why don't you stop her going to the ring? You know she's up to no good. She also got a lick in, which I presume must be Ford's special move by this stage. And after a while, Luther decided, well, if the officials aren't going to do anything, I'm going to pick her up and take her away. That's exactly what he did. He kidnapped her. Now, I did allow Toni Storm to unleash a Mortal Kombat combo, but even then, Bayne was like, it's not gonna happen. So Toni decided to hit this German suplex from the ropes. My gosh, that looked like it killed her. Falcon Arrow by Megan was actually the same, as this got totally out of control. But when she was hit by Sweet Chick Music, Megan Bayne was like, well, that's not gonna hurt me. To the point, Toni Storm had to go Sweet Chick Music, Sweet Chick Music, Sweet Chick Music. She hit the Storm Zero, flubbed me sideways, Megan Bayne kicked out a one. She then wrecked Toni Storm with the lariat and the Liger Bomb, and just as she was about to go for Fate's Descent, her Final Fantasy move, Toni remembered, wait a minute, I have a finishing maneuver I haven't used, and she hit the most devastating move. In all her sports entertainment, and she got the 1, 2, 3. That actually goes back to the down we've just talked about. Why did we need to have 2 surprise roll-ups on one show? You could have taken it out of the Mercedes match. Bayne made sure she was up really quickly though, so we are gonna have to do this rematch at some point. But yeah, let's just make sure there's more fire behind it, and that magic word, Jeopardy. But in terms of 2 people going at it, and Toni Storm just continuing to hit home runs all out of the place, it's getting an up. I just thought we could have postponed it a little bit. Carl Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe in the Owen Hart Cup tournament was next. And honestly, we don't need to talk about this match. It was one of the best bouts of the night. Those two together are brilliant. Now the only issue is that Mark Briscoe keeps losing all the time, but the fans don't care. And I don't actually care, because when he does arrive in another match, I just want him to win. So maybe we could do like a Kenta Kobashi thing here. We've already started the defeated streak, and man, if he ever does the get big win, I'm gonna have a conniption and smile. Fletcher has also become such a monster in 2025, and given that year he did start the match with a dive. My favourite part of all of this is that Briscoe wanted to do his chair dive at one point for instant revenge, and the referee said no. I was like, why do you care? So later on, Mark Briscoe just threw all the chairs into the ring, so the ref was like, well, now I've got to get rid of these, and as soon as he did do that, Mark Briscoe was able to get his move, but actually it was a terrible idea, because Fletcher then used the chair to his advantage. Damn it! That was awful too, because it was an exploder. And then Fletcher just threw Mark Briscoe onto the floor over and over again, when Excalibur decided, oh my gosh, do you want some story? Or do you know that Carl Fletcher and Takeshita, who are both in the Don Callis family, could clash in this Owen Hart Cup tournament? I don't think Don Callis appreciated that at all. Mark was a little bit worried, so he bit Carl Fletcher, because why wouldn't you do that? And this is when they just came to blows. And we got the first of many brain busters, and yet this one was on the ring apron. It's the hardest part of the ring. Briscoe also had this brilliant moment too where he got the froggy bow for a 1-2-ooh and spun out of the Dre driller to hit another driver, and damn it, he would have got the victory there. But Carl Fletcher rolled out the ring. By the time he got back in there, they scrapped some more, they went to the middle rope, and yep, Carl Fletcher hit that horrendous looking brainbuster into Tina the Turnbuckle, 1, 2, 3. So once again, I really don't have anything to say about this because it was so good. These two have such good chemistry together, they should be added to the periodic table. When I do think AEW overthought things, I mean, it can happen. Now, I do understand why we did this because it added to the drama and I suppose gave you, oh, thank goodness for that. But also, you can break wrestling down sometimes. You just want the good guy to win, and you want the bad guy to lose. We don't need to go round the houses, so we kind of Google map the whole thing. Anyway, I'm talking about Chris Jericho versus Bandito for the Ring of Honor World title, and actually these two work really well together. I believe this is their third match, and everyone has been pretty damn good. Bandito also had his mother and sister at ringside, which added to the emotion, because of course if he was going to lose, he would be unmasked. Dun dun dun. Bandito also got a lot here, because he held Chris Jericho in that stalling suplex for around about 1 minute, and I don't know why that's so effective. Maybe that's the beauty of the sport. Chris eventually powerbombed Bandito into the floor because why the flub wouldn't he do that when he went and yelled at Bandito's family for easy heat. And of course eventually the learning truth came to the ring, specifically Brian Keith. But gravity was watching Brian Keith because he's Batman and he took him out. Otherwise, who the flub knows what would have happened. However, this distracted the referee because he was like, oh, you two, would you go away? So Christopher got his bat, he whacked Bandito, and that's right, he pinned him, and for a few minutes it felt like Bandito was going to have to unmask, and that would have been a bad idea. The problem is, AEW has now backed themselves into a corner, because Bandito's family went to Aubrey Edwards, who wasn't even the referee, which made it even stranger. Oh, hi, we saw what happened. So then the real referee, Justin Roberts and Aubrey all got together when they decided, well, we totally believe what you are saying, we will restart the match. Which means if this ever happens again, and there's any kind of shenanigans in AEW's wrestling, somebody can walk to the ring and go, no, that's not what happened, and we're gonna have to restart it, and you don't want to do that, because the whole point of having heels cheat is that you can get out of situations like this. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and it turns out AEW will start enforcing this, so I'll have egg on my face, but it also kind of took the wind out of Bandito's sails, because even though he hit the 21 plex and he got the 1, 2, 3, we'd already had the downer, so by the time we got to the upper, well, it wasn't as up as it could have been. Or something. I mean, Tony Schiavone, even on commentary, was like, oh, well, those kind of reverse decisions don't usually happen. So yeah, listen, while I am happy that Bandito got the win, I do think you have to give this one a down. Like I say, it just didn't reach the heights that it should have done, so we had to go through too much murky stuff. And if you did like it, I think that's superb. And in terms of a show this long, you do need some variety. This goes back to what I'm always talking about. Always try new things, always throw things at the wall, but it doesn't mean that they're always gonna stick. I am gonna throw an up in there because again, the core of the match is very good and I don't think we should ever forget about that. But the finish is also more important. As already said, the finish, well, that one gets it down. When I really did love what AEW did next. Because sometimes reality and what's going on in the real world trumps everything within the wrestling space. And it was Adam Cole versus Danny Garcia for the TNT title. And Adam Cole won. Now, yes, the TNT belt needs a serious kick up the arse, but hopefully we can do that with a brand new champion. And do not forget everything that Cole went through. He had those concussions, he had the foot problem, to the point a new bone had to be put in his tootsie toes. To see him bust out a performance like this and win a title, well, that's why I'm wearing the t-shirt. It did make me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. I'm just gonna give it an up right now. And the match was great, and these two work well together, but it's an up, so it's getting an up, give it an up. There was a little bit of a tease here too, because at one point it looked like Adam hurt his leg, and Daniel didn't even think twice. He is not Celine Dion. He kind of worked that over, and when he did get frustrated towards the end of the match, well, yeah, he just seemed a little bit angry, so maybe that guy's gonna go heel. He was gonna be smashed with the Panama Sunrise at one point too, but he did collapse. When he was able to get back to his feet, he actually remembered, do you remember what I did against MJF? I gave him that crazy power driver. He was going to do the same to Adam Cole, but Adam was like, well, now you're right in range for my finishing move. He gave him 2 Panama the Sunrises when he lowered the boom and smacked him with the knee. And that's when he did get the big win. Now it's important to know they did shake hands afterwards, so we will have to wait and see. but I've kind of condensed this one because, yeah, if you go and watch this and you like Adam Cole, it will just make you feel good. And sometimes we forget about the real struggles these people do go through. So that was absolutely brilliant. When we did have the match of the night, it was for the international title, Kenny Omega versus Ricochet versus Speedball Mike Bailey. And actually, if you want to walk into my house and say, Simon, is that the best triple threat match All Elite Wrestling has ever done? The answer is probably yes. Now, once again, Omega was never going to lose here, especially because AEW has teased what he will be doing at All In. But this was a match where you sit back, you turn your eyes into enjoy mode, and you just have the best time. Now, this happened way into the match, but I need to talk about it now because it popped me so much. But that damn Speedball Mike Bailey went all Karate Kid here, and he hit Ricochet with the crane kick. Now, Ricky sold that like death, but man, Speedball, I love him more than words could say. That was the most entertaining thing I've ever seen in my life. So next time, I really hope he sweeps the leg as well. And of course, at the start of this, Ricochet kept running away because he is an asshole. And eventually, Omega and Mike caught up with him, and they kind of tennis balled him around as the crowd chanted "bald." Now, as you could imagine, I was not able to enjoy this as much as I would have liked. We were then getting mega dives, and Ricochet did one before he started doing some commentary when Bailey came out of nowhere and actually apologized to Tony Schiavone. When it was you hit me, I hit you, we all hit everyone, and they fell down. It was like Humpty Dumpty, but it was great. We were then getting more dives and Asai moonsaults, and people were trying to stack both guys up to get the pin, but that was never going to work. When actually Bailey was able to hit Time Adventure, but Rick broke that pin off. And Speedball was so pissed at him, he just went crazy. He also continued to drop that moonsault knee that he does, although he missed one and just landed on the floor in a wreck, which when Ricochet was like, haha, I'm gonna hit you with a vertigo, the Speedball kicked out at 2. Omega was then doing Snapdragons when he hit a double V trigger because he ran left and he ran right, and those just looked really good too. When we had Bailey missing the ultimate weapon and then Kenny Omega was applying submission moves, when Ricochet broke that up with the 450 splash. Honestly, they're so talented, you can't believe it. People were then falling off ropes, we got shooting star presses, and we got the Karate Kid bit, when Ricochet decided, well, I know what I can do, Mike Bailey. I am gonna hit you with an avalanche vertigo, because nobody and their mother is gonna kick out of that. But it was such a good finish, because Ken was like, what am I, chopped liver? Why aren't you paying attention to me? So he then went up the ropes. He was able to grab Ricochet from behind into the one angel position. He hit the most amazing one-winged angel you've ever seen. Because Mike Bailey had been murked, he fell down into the Tree of Woe position, meaning he wasn't able to break up the pin. The referee hit the 3. Kenny is still your champion. But honestly, as a string of moves to get to the finish, that was pretty damn good. And it was smooth. We also basically once again told you what is going to happen at All In because Okada walked out to look at Kenny Omega, because that's what wrestlers do when they are pissed. And it does feel like we are going to merge these titles, and you are going to get Kenny Omega versus Okada on US soil. I mean, that's probably a reason to fly to Texas. So I'm absolutely giving it the biggest up of the night. It was just so damn fun to watch. Some people like to poo-poo on these matches. I don't think you realize how good these guys are. I never want it to go away. Absolutely brilliant. When yes, we do get to the controversy of the evening for the AEW World title. Swerve Strickland versus Jon Moxley. The referee held up the briefcase to start instead of the belt. We probably should not do that again. Now, they actually started off by kind of wrestling a little bit as Swerve went after the ankle, but sooner rather than later, Marina Shafir stomped on Strickland's head, so Jon Moxley did the same. My hand went up for a second time. I was like, oh, I really think somebody should ban Marina from ringside. Swerve then got thrown into the announce table and he was bleeding pretty badly when Jonathan applied the choke. So I had my Death Rider's tick box board out and I was like, yep, we're doing all the things. I do actually think that was a problem for some people, and I can understand that when Swerve was just busting out all these house calls, including one after he got hit with a lariat. And guess why he wasn't able to capitalize on this? 2 words, Marina Shafir. Now, Prince Nana finally decided, well, if no one else is going to do anything about this, I will. But he got twonked with the briefcase. Well, we just got the funniest bit. And I'll try and explain it. But Mox was like, brilliant, I'm now going to hit Swerve with a cutter. But somehow Strickland moved. And rather than stop his body, Jonathan just went whole hog. And that's right, he hit the cut on Marina. Once again, I said it earlier, you just gotta love wrestling. We then got some biting as Swerve hit a flipping Swerve stop off a ladder as he crushed Jon Moxley into Alan the announce table. When we had more slapstick, because Shafir was back, she threw a chair into Jonathan's hands, who then went to hurl it into Swerve, but he ducked, and that chair took out the referee. Honestly, I laughed. I don't think I was meant to be laughing. We then went really mad because Swerve was able to hit a vertebraker when out came Hangman Adam Page, and he was just on the ring apron teasing that he was going to hit somebody with the buckshot, but we never found out who and why because the Death Riders were here and Pac took out the Cowboy. Not for dinner. All the nonsense then kicked off because the Ops, who had promised to be at the pay-per-view, they came out to stop the Death Riders. So surely that has to be our next trios title match, which I'm all down for. But this is when Hangman realized, oh my gosh, I'm all alone, and he hit the Deadeye onto Jon Moxley. So maybe inadvertently, or maybe not, he helped Swerve. Keep that in your brain. Strickland was able to use that because he threw the chair into Moxley's face when he hit the Swerve stomp, but because his leg had been screwed from earlier, he wasn't able to make the pin, there was no ref anyway, when The Undertaker arrived in AEW. Or at the very least, the lights went out. It of course meant when they came back on, somebody was going to be in the ring. This got a huge reaction, because it was the Young Bucks, and in the dark, somehow they had grabbed Swerve's hands in the position of the BTE trigger. They hit it, they then ran away. Can you believe it? The referee was then okay. As Jon Moxley crawled across, he covered Swerve. He is still your AEW World Champion. Briefcase. Now the crowd wasn't happy with this, and it did mean that Dynasty ended with Swerve Strickland looking at the Bucks and the Bucks looking at everyone and Hangman kind of freaking out. So now if I was going to hazard a guess, it feels like when we get to All In, it's going to be Hangman and Swerve versus Matt and Nick. Now while that's a great match, I actually wanted Hangman and Swerve to get back on the same page from a respect level, but still go after the world title at that pay-per-view. I suppose I was completely wrong. Usually the way. You could also hazard a guess that the wild card in the Owen Hart Cup is now going to be Jack Perry, because again, who is the wild card facing? Give it a beat, it's Hangman Adam Page. Now given that I have just made up that Hangman and Swerve could be a team, we can't really focus on it. What we can is the fact that Mox has just retained that AEW World title, and yeah, I think I do agree with the masses here. I'm not entirely sure that was the right thing to do. I do actually think it's going to be Will Ospreay now who beats Jon Moxley at All In, so in hindsight this could be really good. But I think we can all just feel it now. I appreciate the fact what we tried to do with this Death Rider storyline, and the Young Bucks returning do make sense. They can be like, haha, it was us that was pulling the strings the whole time. But at the moment, unless we get a really good angle on Dynamite, well, it's still not really clicking. It also meant the pay-per-view ended flat, and I just think that's because deep down on our Tootsie Toes, we all wanted Swerve Strickland to win. So even if you were going to do this, and I think bring the Young Bucks again was a really good idea, it probably shouldn't have been at the expense of Strickland. Now, once again, this is all easily sorted out on Wednesday. If you do pull it out your pants and people go, oh my gosh, you would have done a good job. But I do think I have to give it a down, even though once again, I want to make it very clear, I am over the moon that Matt and Nick Jackson are back. I think they make Dynamite and AEW better. I'm just once again saying the same thing over and over again. I like the fact they could be behind the Death Riders. So that side is all good, but it's just Swerve and not winning the title and maybe sort of dragging it out a little bit. I can't help it, my buddies. That's just how I feel. That's why I'm sticking to my down. It did not, however, ruin the entire pay-per-view. And you have the usual grifters going, oh my gosh, that was the worst show I've ever seen in my life. And actually, if you do believe that, that's great, but make sure you also show the same respect for people who are going, oh, I had a great time, because that's the point of wrestling. You approach it in whatever way you want to. But overall, it's still going to get an up. I mean, at least 3 of the matches were well worth your time. Now, of course, please do leave me a comment below and try not to argue if you can. It doesn't really matter, but do it anyway. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is my ups and downs for SmackDown, to get all my wrestling opinions. But otherwise, I appreciate you, my friends. Let's have a great week. See you soon.